This is the Coming Home Podcast with John Allen. 3, 2, 1, and welcome everybody to this episode of the Coming Home Podcast with John Allen. Today I'm speaking with Mr. Brian Wallace. Hello.
That's me.
That's him.
Yeah.
Bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, a fine evening here in Norway.
Okay, is that me or you or both of us?
You know what? I guess maybe I was speaking for myself. I shouldn't be so bold as to speak for both of us.
Actually, I am.
It's not a bad day, is it? Yeah.
No. It's it's a beautiful fall day here.
Yeah.
I guess everyone. Did you say that I'm in Haugesund? I'm on the West Coast.
Yeah, you're out in the West Coast in Haugesund. Yeah. I'm over on the eastern side in Drammen. And I tell you, I know I'm going to enjoy this already. And we had a long conversation the other day on the telephone, and I really loved it. As my listeners know, I'm an American here in Norway, and you are also an American here in Norway. And just to touch base with you after being aware of you and actually conversing a little bit through chat on social media, and then to finally get to have a meaningful conversting with you. I've been looking forward to this and looking forward to yesterday's
because
conversation.
Everything else has not been meaningful at all. I think it's just chatting on comments on Facebook.
But you know what? For me, that has its meaning. It has its place in my everyday life. I enjoy, there's a lot of negative on social media, as we both know. But you are a bright point on social media.
I see the same with you. That's why.
Thank you. Thank you.
Because it's, there is this special thing. There's the Facebook friendship. You're like, because of those comments, you're like, well, if this is the level or like the friendship's going to be, because you meet people all over the world, but it's like, this is really great. This is somebody that's really got a connection with. You have that sense of humor. You have that analytical way of approaching different subjects. You put out this beautiful artwork, so it's just. You're a bright spot in my social media on a daily basis. You have plenty of time. You can keep going without wonderful.
Are you feeling good now? Are you feeling good?
I am. And I'm going to get my charger because I'm just seeing the low battery thing on here. So a technical whiz I am. I'm being prepared for things. But okay. Now the panic is over and we can continue. Yeah.
There we go. Charger in hand. No, people have kind of gotten, it's actually a point of humor on my podcast. You never know what's going to happen. I've had my kids come running into the studio to ask me if they can go out and play. My wife will come in to grab, so hey, we take it as it comes.
Yeah. That's the whole idea of podcast. This just you're the technician, I guess. Huh?
Well, but you know what? I listen to a lot of podcasts, and I guess there's some value in having that high, like Joe Rogan has his Young Jamie who does all of the work for him. You have other people who have scripted podcasts, and there's something to be said for that. But I like the laid back, organic, real. I want people to feel a part of the conversation that I'm having with my guests. And that means, if I have the window open, I have a big veranda, a porch over here on the side of the studio. If I have the door open there and they hear, cars driving by outside, hey, that's just part of the thing.
Yeah. There was a great, I think it was on the old Air America, showing you what a liberal progressive I am. But they, a lot of the talk show, the talk programming, and they'd be high production studios somewhere in New York City, but then you hear sirens going by because they have the window open for fresh air, And I just like that. It just gave that sort of like not less than polished sound,
and it makes you feel like you're actually part of a conversation. You're kind of spying on them, listening to this so-called private conversation.
Yeah. So,
but like I said, man, I've been looking forward to having this episode with you. I want to talk about your art. How would you describe your art? Now, I've talked about you with other people, and I've described your art. But how do you describe your art?
It's fairly traditional. I come here, I'm a landscape painter, and if you're going to thinking of any sort of genres or that people would identify with, it's very traditional and impressionistic in its sense, from the I do a lot of local scenes on the West Coast here.
Okay, now that clears something up for me, because I've always wondered, where do you get your scenes from? So
yeah. It's kind of like they said, why did Rembrandt, to put myself in the same breath.
There you go. There you go.
The reason he did his so many self-portraits was because he was there all the time,
Yeah,
and this is the landscape that's outside my door, and that's what I see in my market as well, and I'm fortunate enough that that's what I paint is the landscape around me. And there's a market for that here. People, I send a lot of people to send gifts to people that have moved away. Children, grown children that moved away, for gifts and memories of
their. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Smart.
Yeah. But I'm starting. I do a lot of other things as well. I've just done for years I've just done a series just based on Times Square in New York, because that's just a world itself.
And that was impressive, because you have your landscape painting. It has this. It's almost like a fog. It's almost like it's a little diffuse. But when you did your Times Square thing, to me, it was a mixture of the diffuse, but also but you also had some incredible detail in the same painting. How in the world did you pull that off, man?
I think that might be they're larger scale. So they're, in a way, the brushstrokes are just as rough and diffuse, but you get so many straight lines with architecture.
Right. Maybe that's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. But then I might also do a bit tighter details on those. But I hope people can go. That's the beauty of in the old days we all used to make business cards, and and then before social media, if you had a website, you still had a business card with a website on it.
Yeah.
Now all I have to give people, and you have my phone, and I'll even just go, I'll send you it, and then just show them, and just say, and then you can just Google it and find me on Facebook or I'm on Instagram.
Let me ask you this: Why Times Square?
Well, he was just looking for. I hope I don't bore people with what I'm doing, but I'm a very realist painter, but I'm fascinated by abstract.
Yeah.
I just let people are like, oh, I like what you're doing. I don't understand. So I'm like, I love abstract, because it's something that I just, I've seen some stuff just makes my mouth water, these painting techniques, and I don't understand it as an artist enough to do so much with it. I've messed around with it, and then I've pushed some of my landscape or even still lifes or things and sort of pushed them towards abstraction.
Okay.
And then I started. Well, I would do these crowds of people, and in doing them from a high angle, it becomes less. You can sort of melt things into each other.
Good point. Good point.
And then I would. So I was just finding pictures of that I had taken in Times Square, because you have just lots of people and you have colors and shapes and everything's at so many angles. And even though so much of the advertising has letters and stuff and faces and all this stuff, it becomes this sort of very flattened space, because there's just something going on every square inch of the canvas. So for me, it was this way of sort of getting to understand abstraction and thinking I could take it's I don't know if, people that aren't, painting or drawing themselves might understand, but that it was this a way, like you said, it felt more realistic, but it was my way of sort of getting the sense for abstraction.
So you were consciously stepping a little bit outside your style, a little bit outside your comfort zone, in the hopes that you would become more familiar with a new aspect of art.
Yeah. It's very hard to describe. And it's almost a dichotomy in a way when people hear that, But it was this way. I thought, well, I'll just have it'll just be. Just shapes all the way. You try to transcend the image.
Yes.
So it makes it about the just the colors and shapes and which is abstraction is. It has to work visually. It has to work when you're in art school, we talk about a picture, no matter how realistic it is, we talk about the abstract qualities of it.
Yeah, yeah.
And I guess it would be, you being a musician and myself playing a bit, I see this certain correlations between art, visual art, and music. Is you have pop music, and then you have things that are much more sort of in your face. Then you have classical, which is this whole other, has these traditional things, and then you have modern, jazz and these performers that are pushing the boundaries of what classical music is,
right,
inventing new scales.
Yeah.
And then, or like Picasso was doing, he saw African masks and artwork, and he introduced, that got him off onto, cubism and all this stuff.
But I think there's more innovation in art, painting, than there has been in music. You have so many iconic painters, but you only have a handful of iconic musicians. You have people like Miles Davis. We have, may he rest in peace, Eddie Van Halen, who did Jimi Hendrix. But there's only a few of those. It seems like people who express themselves through art, they're more capable of reaching a new pinnacle.
Well,
would you agree? Would you agree with that?
Yes, probably, but how as far as recorded music, how old is that? That's not very old.
That's true. That's true.
A few hundred years of recorded,
Oh gosh, give it time, John. I guess I'm impatient.
That's right.
Where are the innovators?
That just came to me now as you're saying that.
That's a very good point, though.
Why?
That's probably why. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's funny because my son, having studied music and just finished the I guess would be the high school level, we'd say, in the United States. Now he's at university, but so he's become quite a sort of a he's at that sort of pretentious age where you kind of learned a lot of stuff about music theory. He's getting into rhythms and stuff. But he's listening to these performers, and usually it's jazz that's sort of doing it. But you get these guys that are, they're pushing the boundaries of like well-known time signatures, and and then you had, the classic thing. If you're, old rockers like us, Led Zeppelin, those guys started getting into these North African rhythms and working with Page and Plant doing that stuff, and Page is Plant is doing a lot of just this sort of, and then that world music. I remember back in the late 80s maybe, it was what was that? The drummer for the Grateful Dead. I remember he was really into this world music thing. Mickey something.
Mickey, him.
That guy.
That guy.
but remember, because I'd be listening to PBS and stuff, and there'd be this whole thing in world music where it's sort of getting beyond, all this sort of what pop music is and the established genres,
Let me ask you this. Now, you mentioned your son studies music. Now, I never studied music ever. Everything I can do, it's because I learned myself.
Yeah, which is a lot of musicians did.
Yes. Now, if we go over to the painting world, to the art world, is a painter missing something if they haven't gone to art school?
Well, I think it's the same with music. You don't have to go to a school to study these things, but you could get so much from it.
What made you decide? What made you decide to go to art school?
Well, I was. I drew all my life. It's one of these. It's similar to me. My son learned to play guitar. I taught him when he was 9, and he was better than me when he was 10. And my father's a competent draftsman. He actually is a shoe designer.
Oh, really?
By trade. So he can do basic. He knows 3-dimensional drawing and stuff. So he got this fast. So he would draw for me, and I'd watch him draw. So it would just. I was in a young age, and then I remember being quite young, and before my teens, and I was like looking at my father, and I was just realizing like, anyway, I think I'm actually better than him. And then I think that sort of is encouraged me, because I was sort of living through, my father going, wow, that's how I wanted to be. He was like encouraging what I was doing. And I compare it to, like, with my son, like if I had been a fairly good football player, or soccer player, as we say in the States, but, or any sport, and then, you just like, you never quite made it, you had an injury, and so you get your son that shows some promise, or a daughter or whatever, and then they get, I did that with guitar and music in general,
So now you're also, you appear to be, you impress me rather with the business side of art. You are actually, you're living off of your art, and that's a rare thing, especially in Norway. That's a rare thing.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if I could have done it in the States. I came here. I think we talked about that last night. But tell them your story about the timing and your story, and what your personality and your background has done for your art career. Talk about that a little bit. Yeah. Because that was a great. We actually should have recorded this episode when we were on the phone yesterday, because that was a great conversation. Yes, I know. I'm trying to remember all now. Whatever. No. Yeah. So. Actually, the reason we all have stories, and it's funny, we've got these stories down pat when you've lived in a place for as long as we have. Oh, you're American. So what brought you here? Then you go, okay, sit down. This is the story. But so my ex-wife is from the town of Haugesund, and she studied in Boston. So I met her at art school there. She's also she's a graphic designer, but I was a painter. So it also, I tell people, like, they say, what's it like, what do you think of like living here in Norway? And I'm like, I can't compare it, because I was a single art student, never owned anything other than, the secondhand pickup truck that I have from my wife, that my father probably co-signed the loan on me, and then suddenly, this a couple of years when I spent in New York, but then she moved back to Norway, and so I was had the chance to be learning myself as a painter. Yeah. And then I came over here, and at that time, this is getting 27 years ago. Yeah. When I came over, and at that time it was a little bit unusual for an American or people from other countries to come here, and they just like, why would you come here? We go to America, we. Yeah.
Well, it's rare. It's rare now today, but back then, yes, it was extremely rare. It was almost unheard of. Yeah.
Right, yeah. And here on the West Coast, the only people that were here that were, maybe a lot of English and Scottish, but they were here with work through the oil industry. Right. So there wasn't that many that would just move over here, because they, usually be someone here that would study and then like meet an American person and then decide to move to the States. It didn't go the other way around. Right. So we talked about, as I'm trying to establish myself, and that's what we said, like, you just not just an artist, you are your product. Yeah. You really have to sell it. And this is before social media. And so, I was lucky. I got an exhibition, but I feel like, whenever we talk to somebody about something, they just see your name and, well, what's the story here? Yeah. And they're thinking, well, he's, studied in America. I mean, you could study it in some little, any little backwater place, and they'll just like, whoa, he studied in America, which people of some prestige did. They went abroad and studied. So and then I when I had an exhibition, and suddenly I was an interesting newspaper article to cover, because they wouldn't always cover the story, at the local, we call it Billy Gallery, the sort of local, it's a town gallery art center. Yeah. But it's not a private gallery. It's this sort of, subsidized.
Run by the city or the county. Yeah.
And, so sometimes, they're like, they'll write about the football thing or whatever, some sponsor deal or whatever, but they wouldn't always write about some exhibition at the gallery. And then, well, suddenly they do a newspaper article because, like I said, it writes itself. What's the story? He's here. He's married. Astrid Nielsen from Haugesund, and studied in Boston, and things like that. And then, then you'd get even and there's a local TV station here. Be on something there, and then after a while you sort of like become known as the token American. And then I remember as Halloween started, because it's a recent thing here. Where it was, and it was, there was a couple years, or 1 year in particular, it just exploded. I think sort of a chamber of commerce or something where they said, hey, let's do this Halloween thing. I think we can, because it was a concerted effort. It just exploded over a couple of years, And so the newspaper, they go, well, we need some fluff, so they do a little article on my memories of, Halloween in America. And, so, and I got pretty savvy. That was another thing is you get a guy that probably would rather do an article if you were a football player that just got bought in by the local team, and then he's got a call, and he's like, so what's your inspiration? They use those keywords, inspiration. They know artists are inspired, I'd suffer through these things trying to do it in Norwegian. And then I realized, you can control the situation. You've got to tell what your story you want to get past, You need to tell them something interesting. You have to make yourself an interesting person, even if it isn't. It's like you almost you create this and then you have to live up to it.
And you can't be afraid to play off of your strengths. A lot of people are too humble. I mean, you should always be humble, but a lot of people are afraid. I'll say it this way: they're afraid of coming off as arrayant.
And that's another thing is, this is being American. There's certain things, there's that jantelov. I don't know if you guys have that here, but if a Norwegian sort of talk this sort of positive way we do, they think they're arrogant, but it's kind of quaint and American. That's just how Americans are. So you get a lot of leeway.
Absolutely.
And so you realize you can capitalize on it.
Absolutely.
I'm
it served me well.
It's like, in America, I think we know. I think we just usually come. You lived in Chicago, you said, and you're in these big places, and you feel like you're always struggling against sort of anonymity, especially if you're trying to be, some, notable person or to be noticed, as an artist or performer or whatever. So you just gotta. So I learned and as soon as I would go on, I would turn it and just get onto my rant, they would just relax and they would just scribble down what you're writing. They're just like, this is great.
That's what that's what I experienced with my my little experience in the news media here a few months back with both NRK and TV2. Did you see that interview I did on TV2 on the breakfast TV?
Yeah.
That experience was not as intimidating as I thought it would be, because I found that when I didn't wait for them, the producers and even the lady who interviewed me, I didn't wait for them to come with the questions. I came with my own meaning and my own thought.
That's right.
And I could see that was visibly relaxing to them. It's almost like they
don't always know that the subject that they need to talk about. I mean, they have to be ready to interview everybody.
So I think we Americans, especially we Americans who do anything artistic, we are at an advantage in the sense that we're not afraid to control the narrative. And also as if, like you say, people that don't aren't their own sort of performer or aren't your own sort of businessman, you don't need to do that. You just like, oh God, I hate interviews, and I'd get nervous as hell, but I wouldn't say no to one. I just like, because you can do a horrible interview, and it's not gonna ruin your career. It's not. No.
It's only people aren't going to remember. They're not going to remember all these funny things you said. And it's like, speaking this horrible Norwegian. It's
but
like
your Norwegian is good though. Your Norwegian is very good.
Oh Oh yeah, have you heard my Norwegian?
Yeah, I saw you posted some. I want to say this. It was either before or after you did. You had a showing at a gallery.
That's right.
A few months ago.
That was right. It was during the Siljas. Siljas festival. And, my gallery is right in the center. It's over in the middle of Siljas, and she was like, "Can you do it in Norwegian?" I'm like, "Yeah, okay, yeah." So I did do it in Norwegian.
I think you did a good job, man. You did a good job. So let me ask you this: when you get the hankering to do a showing at a gallery, how do you make it happen? What do you do? Take me through that process.
I just produce as much as I can. So I just give giving her the message because she's like, "Where are you?" So I'm like, I just had to give her the thumbs up. I'm on the phone.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No. So what's your rate of production? How often do you come with a new painting?
Well, yeah, it's just as many as you can, because as soon as you agree to if you have a year to do an exhibition, you have about 11 months to think about it, and then 1 month of severe panic. Like,
so does the gallery come to you and ask you to do an exhibition, or do you go to them and say you'd like to do an exhibition?
Usually, I've been contacted by galleries that I've, maybe shown at it. I think it's a little of both. Okay. I can never remember the thing. It's like, once I was known, I've been asked most of the time. I think that
That's got to be a comfortable position to be in. Yeah,
it is. And the thing is now that when you're established, like I am, at least in this area, which we'll talk about, it's not a big town, but it has this broad sort of economic base. And,
yes, it does. Yeah.
Good money. I really don't need to do exhibitions. They're sort of a chore. They're sort of because I sell directly. I've established myself sort of as my own businessman.
I see. Okay, so you have enough work, so to speak, enough requisitions to where doing a show is actually that's something you can say no to, and you'll still be fine.
Yeah, or you always say yes to it because it's like advertising.
It is an opportunity to be seen. Yeah. But it's like I don't search them out because it's you're trying to if you're fortunate enough to have work, you've always got to choose between you got these paintings that you're trying to put together a show. That's a nice selection of work. And then in the meantime, you need to live off of these pictures. And then you're like, you don't want to, and people come in and if they're looking at pictures and you're like, well, that one's for the show, but I'll always prioritize, like I'll sell the person now. And because, you go to an exhibition and then you're paying the commission scale. And so, but, but there's a lot of group shows. And the Lions Club puts on these things, and then there's a local sort of, actually one of the football organizations that organizes the thing, and it's actually a lot of the money goes to a different charity, I think. Okay.
And those can have as many as 40 artists, and you put in 3 or 4 or 5 pictures. And things like that, So there's always plenty of that to go on. But just another thing, which I didn't know about till I got here, and it's something that has been growing over the years. It was really peaking in the early 2000s. Was they call these, Kunstverening, Bedriftskunstverening, which is an art club for the employees. It's sort of like a perk to make the workspace. And you put in money every month. And some of the bigger companies, they would match funds and things like that.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And then at the end of the year, they have a lottery, and somehow they have it organized so that every few years you're guaranteed to win something. Because they have a number of pictures, and they have the A class and the B, price classes and stuff like that. Yeah. So it's sort of it's sort of a social thing for them because they have different meetings during the year.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, and that's been a great thing because all the big companies have these art clubs, and there's Norsk Hydro and Gasco and all the big multinational companies that have offices here. The what is it? It's so hard to translate. The Sjöfartsdirektorat is here. It's the Norwegian Maritime Ministry. That's what they translate as ministry. Like the English. Yeah. Just things like that, and then you get in there, and you're actually, becoming familiar to the CEO. They're all people in the business,
right?
So you have people that retire, and they have 50th, 60th birthdays, a pension, retiring. Yeah, I said that, retiring, things like that. So that they're always buying gifts, and then I've had these companies. Like the shipbuilding or platform maintenance place here, they'll do a big project and they'll buy a piece of artwork to give to the company. Thanks for the design. So it's just snowballs into stuff. So it's
it sounds like you're in the right area because there is a huge, as you said, it's a small town, but it is a very solid economic base there because of the oil industry. I guess I never thought of that aspect of it, with these different companies being in a situation like that to buy artwork. Yeah. That's I just got a phone call. Is that what that was?
Yeah. That's the unfortunate.
So
thing.
who is so you have these big, companies and CEOs and whatnot, but what does a typical or an average, a normal person look like who wants to buy a piece of Brian Wallace artwork? Do you get the guy off the street who comes in and says, "Hey, I heard about you, and can I see what you have for sale?"
Yeah, it's usually somebody's what they say, round birthdays here.
Okay.
Maybe a group of siblings or a group of social friends, and somebody's I just did a 50th birthday thing for somebody, and all their friends with lots of cash. They chip in and they come up with a price they're going to spend on this gift, and that's what it becomes.
So what kind of painting was it then?
Yeah. That was a New York scene.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, a big New York scene, and there's some people, and they, and it was cool because it was something they had been thinking about themselves getting. Yeah. And that was really cool because the guy, it was 3 days after his friends contacted me, they want one of my big paintings. He sends me a message on Instagram saying, we've been thinking about one of your pieces. We'd like to come by the gallery someday. I'm like, oh, cool, yeah. So it's kind of nice to know. I'm like, well, okay, I'm pretty established.
Yeah.
He didn't know he was going to get one for his birthday, but I'm hoping he still wants one now. He's already got one for.
So are you fairly consistent then with your production, or do you have, as a writer, as a songwriter, there's that thing called writer's block. Do you have painter's block, or are you relatively consistent?
Well, I don't know. Maybe I think a songwriter is more. That's a much more speculative thing, because you're just trying to write the best song you can, and a lot of times I'm just making artwork to make artwork. But when you have commissions, songs aren't really written on commission generally, unless maybe you've got a record deal and you need to come up with something. But
actually, because I write a lot of lyrics for a lot of other bands and artists, and that's kind of a commission thing. They give me a piece of music and they want lyrics for it. So it's very similar. It's similar.
Yeah, I would imagine that's the best cure for writer's block. It's people ask me, that we were talking about that. They're like, "What's your inspiration?" And I'm like, well, hunger is a good inspiration, or a mortgage, It's, you just got to do, and, you can't wait and what am I going to paint? Because a lot of times I'm like, oh, what would be something to, and then you just start throwing paint on the canvas and then something comes out and then gives you an idea. It's like, hey, that image would work great with this kind of stuff I'm doing. And then I'm looking at something, I'm like, oh, I wish I'd done this, or I should do that in a larger scale, or, something like it. It's
but that need, need to eat, that need to sustain yourself economically, does that get in the way of the creativity? Because that's
what I'm saying. That is the inspiration, and the creativity comes along. Because you can't really wait for it. You just, because it makes you like have to do something, and then the commission, and then you just do it. It's that's in your creativity is there. Just you have to bring it out. It's funny because I think people, I'm sure, you would maybe say that you were inspired if you wrote a song you're really proud of, but that only came out because you sat down and did the work. You know how to write a song because you've done it, and you know the ones that really didn't work and the ones that did. But in just knowing that formula isn't going to make a great song, but you know how to just, okay, this is what I need to do, this is how I usually get started, this is my process. And that's what I do. I don't, it's not like, I paint all the time. So it's not like I'm sitting around and just like, oh, I need to paint, It's like, I'm going to have to at some point, and it's like, it's not the worst job to have to do. So
you ever paint something and then toss it because you just don't like it? Yeah.
Usually I paint over it.
Yeah.
And I have this thing like a pictures that's not working so well. And I'm like, oh, it's so prominent. And then you keep going with it, and you just don't. But what I'll do is I'll just sort of put a light color something over, sort of just blur it out, and I'll flip it over, and then start a new picture on it. So it's not a flat canvas. There's a lot of depth to the picture.
I see. I see.
Yeah. So it's
I've always wished I could paint. My wife, she's never sold a piece. And she doesn't do it at all now, but up through the years, she's painted things, and I think she has a real talent for it. And I'm jealous. I've always wished that I could draw or paint. And people like you and our good friend Tiffany. Hello, Miss Tiffany.
She's
people like you guys.
Really talented.
Oh yeah, and people like you guys are just putting it out there. Where does that? I don't know. Do you recognize that you have this incredible talent, or is it just something you do? Yeah. Or
well, it is. I realize. I think you asked me why I went to art school was because I realized that's what I do best. I wanted to be a musician. My best friend, was playing, and he got me to play in a band because I got to know him because I was drawing all the same rock stars that he drew, and then he's like, you play.
Let me just interrupt you here. I saw on your Instagram, and I'm going to give everybody your contact information on social media before we're through here. But I saw your Jimi Hendrix rendition on your Instagram. Yeah. Good Lord. Yeah. Great thumbs up on that, man. That is probably, I'm not saying this just because I'm looking at you now on over this this video chat. Yeah. That is probably one of the coolest paintings of Jimi Hendrix I've ever seen.
Oh, that's cool. I just have to say that the cool thing was it's I may have seen that photo before, but the fact that it was in black and white was like really cool because I could really make the colors.
There you go.
And not be sort of.
You brought out those late '60s psychedelic colors.
There's a lot of purple.
Man, it's very cool. Nice work on that.
Yeah. Well, thank you. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But getting back to it, that's about me. I'm a competent player. I played bass with the different, ensembles, people who have, similar to me, that they've been playing for many years, but aren't really sort of, musicians that do much, other than just playing, and it's a lot of fun, and I've been fortunate to know a lot of very famous, or like well-known studio musicians, people that are touring musicians that have toured with big names and stuff like that. The years I lived in New York, and that was really cool. So I've always looked at, these natural musicians and say, oh, it just must be so fun to be able to play, because I've been playing for so many years, and it's like, it can be fun, but I just can't get beyond that, because I realize the passion is kind of there, but it's not quite. It's not enough to get over those hurdles of, to really
I understand.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I've accepted that. It's great. I have that love, and I have the ability to play.
Do you have any? Do you have any recordings of anything that you've ever been on?
Thank God, no. No, I don't. A friend of mine. He's a competent singer. He likes to play his acoustic and sing. And he's always going to the karaoke and stuff. And he's got a good voice. And he'll just do recordings, and he puts them out on SoundCloud and stuff.
SoundCloud, okay,
yeah, just for his own sake, or for his dad and his brother, that are also musicians to listen to. But it's not for any, a career or anything. Right. So I've played with him. So there might be some recordings with him. We'll
have to dig into the archives on SoundCloud.
You ask me, it's nothing to, I gotta hear that. That's,
Well, I tell you, there's something about, music in general, but the writing process for me, it's so therapeutic, and I can't I don't want to sound corny, but I truly cannot describe the rush, the good feeling I get when I've written a song and it's finished.
Yeah,
and I'm wondering if that can be compared to what you experience as a painter. You're not numb to that feeling of accomplishment when you paint?
No.
You still get the same.
Yeah. When it works, and there's this other thing when it doesn't work, you feel like.
See, I guess my. Of course, as I said, I write for others, but when I'm working on my own music, I have to make sure I say this in the right way, because I don't want it to come off as flippant or arrogant. But I don't write bad songs for myself, because if I'm working on a bass line or a melody, and if it's not working, then I just stop and then move on to something else, so that every song that I've ever written, it has, I don't know. Maybe you probably get the same thing with your painting. As you said, if you're in that process and it's not working, you're going to just, paint over it or flip it over and do something else on the other side.
Yeah, and usually the reason you keep going with it, there's something about it, some sort of, some things that are working. But as a picture, you've got to make it all work together. And, just someday you just really, out of it, and you just really didn't do anything. The pictures didn't, none of them progressed or anything.
Yeah.
But what I do, this is, I don't know, what your songwriting process is, but I learned as a student, one of my teachers says, well, are you working on, I was struggling with a piece, and he says, well, are you working on any other pictures? I said, no, this is the picture I'm working on. He goes, well, why are you doing that? Like, you don't have to work on one picture.
Bingo.
And and that's what I do, especially as I get closer to an exhibition. As it gets closer, I'm starting a new picture almost every day.
Okay.
And my goal is not to finish any picture. It almost never is. I tell people, don't ever, just look at it as each picture is going to be a journey. Yeah. And some of them are going to make it and others aren't, I have almost make it for an exhibition, but they won't, if it's not done in time, I prioritize, sort of like triage. You take the ones that are working, do those. Yeah. And the others come,
Well, I have a very similar process. If I'm working with an artist, for example, an artist, and they know they're going to have an album, they want me to write the album, I ask them to give me at least 2 different pieces of music, right? Yeah. So that if that one piece doesn't inspire me in the moment, then maybe the other one will. The best thing, and this has happened before, where a musician has given me 5, 6, 7, 8 pieces of music and said, here you go. I need lyrics for this. That's a golden opportunity, because there will always be something in that pile of music that will inspire me to write lyrics. And then the productivity is almost constant.
Yeah, and to remove any more romance out of the creative process, it's just throwing enough crap against the wall. Some of it's going to stick. But that's exactly how the creative process
absolutely
is.
But sometimes it's a long process. I wrote a country album for my friend Eystein. He came with a country album, and one of the songs that he had wanted me to write he wanted me to write when he was in another band, and this song was supposed to be in a different band. And that was like 10 years before I got the commission to write his album. And then after I started writing for the album, it still took me almost another year. So it was like 11, 12 years for me to write lyrics for one piece of music. And sometimes that's just the way it is.
Yeah. I mean, I've had pictures that I've pulled out, not over that long, but, but it's funny because after, I think about 10 years, if I had a piece that was that old, I feel like that belongs to a different artist.
Okay.
It'd be like finishing someone else's painting because I feel like I'm not that artist anymore.
I always get this fun feeling. I like to study my own writing. I like to go back, like an album I wrote in 2005. Go back and just listen to it and, oh my gosh, I wrote that.
Yeah.
But I always feel like it's me. It's just at an earlier stage in my story.
Yeah.
I don't feel distance. I don't feel distanced from it. It's still very much me, very much the same style. Of course, I think I'm a better writer now, but still that story that I wrote all those years ago I recognize myself in it. Yeah.
Yeah. And the funny thing, I don't know. I sometimes will see stuff. Yeah. And I'm obviously a better, more experienced painter than I was then, but I look at the painting and I'm like, I couldn't replicate that now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's like it's this other sort of mannerisms that I see. Yeah, I don't know. It's this weird sensation I have. It's like,
is it based on mood? Is it based on mood at the moment?
You just change. You've changed as your personality, and I think when you don't see your pictures, you're just thinking, well, I've progressed, and I was proud of the work I was doing then, but I'm assuming it's so much better now. And then I'll go back and look. I'm like, wow, the quality is these are pretty good, better than I remember them being, because I think a lot of the stuff that may have been from those periods were the things that were just never finished and just,
were you less confident? Were you less confident back then? Have you gained confidence over the years?
Yeah. I think it must be, once going back, to relating to music, there's probably things that you just get going with it and you just know you can do it, and you just, a lot less hemming and hawing. You just get underway and the way I mix colors are a lot more spontaneous, and usually they're working better. In a way, color, I'd be like, what is that color? And I'd be trying to mix it. And I was you get good at it just by doing it, you can match. But then now I don't even think that much about the colors. And I realize it's probably not the exact color. Usually it isn't. It's just, you're thinking more, it's all relative. It appears to be that color because it's, it doesn't matter what the original was. Yeah. It's as long as it works on the canvas, So you have much more confidence. You're just like, I'll mix this and this and this, and this is what I got going, and then just add that, and
how important is state of mind when you're painting? Can you paint when you're angry? Can you paint when you're sad?
No, I was talking to some other people. I don't know how you feel about that, but it isn't like, oh yeah, because I'm in a bit of a situation now personally, and it's not inspiring me to work. And someone else said that, I think, a lot of these sad love songs and, things of heartache and things like that may have been inspired by the situation, but I don't know. It might depend. I'm sure there are some artists that just at the lowest point and they sit down and write a song that just get all the pain out. But I have talked to other creatives that said that the opposite. No, it's like when I'm feeling good about stuff that I'm creating stuff, but I'll we'll be writing about this tragic event.
Yeah. I guess for me, I use my writing to go back and revisit an unresolved issue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but I'm not good at writing if I'm depressed or upset in the moment.
Yeah,
I think I've only done, as that I can remember, I think I've only done that with one song where I was actually angry about something and I was able to sit down and write a pretty cool song about it. This aggressive funk rock type of thing. For the most part, when I'm feeling like that, when I'm at that extreme of emotion, usually that down period, I cannot write. But I will go back and revisit it to kind of write it out of my system at a later time. Yeah.
Well, that's what I think, well, that's more, I think, like songwriting or writing, novels or any kind of poetry or something. Yeah. That's more about where you're going to reflecting on a situation or something. Yeah. I don't feel that, I'm, like I said, I need to be, up and positive and stuff usually when I'm in a good place, usually when I'm painting. But I don't think I'm really like painting an episode, that happened. No. It may be something that I'm thinking about at the time, or might remind me of something, but I think that's more for songwriting and stuff. But who knows, because it's so disconnected with the visual world. I don't know about that, but I don't know. You must get that, because a lot of people think that they think there's muses and there's this magical, like the calling, or this, this otherworldly inspiration that comes. But to me, it's a lot less romantic than that.
Well, I do get that.
It's amazing. It's a great thing, but it's like, it's hard work.
But I do get that muse type of thing. I do get that that almost cosmic that divine inspiration or whatever. I do get that. Someone can say something, or I could observe something, or maybe it's a memory, and all of a sudden, the hair will stand up on my arms. I'll get the chill down my spine. It's almost like an adrenaline rush, and then I have to write.
All right, now I'm going to defend I'm going to defend my standpoint. I can agree with that, but you're also trained. You've been doing it so long. You train that like you've always going to be listening.
Yes, yeah.
And I'm always looking for those things that I'm, going to be inspired, or to get that inspiration.
I do listen to that. Yeah. When that thing, whatever it is, that inspiration comes knocking on the door, I have learned how to recognize. I hear the knock and I open the door. And that is a training thing. That's something you have to work at to be able to do. Yeah. Yeah,
and just from years of like doing that, you realize like, because usually you're sitting, in your creative process, where you've got yourself, in your workspace, and you're doing it, pragmatically, just sitting down and I got to do this and this and this.
Yeah.
And then you sort of, go back to the real world to take a break from that. And you're still sort of receptive to all these other things,
Absolutely.
Things that people say, or some sort of.
I always have my ears open for inspiration. I'm an observer. I'm the quiet guy.
Yeah.
And I'll kind of lean myself back and be in the shadows, but I'm observing. There's this one band that I'm the principal writer for, the Remy Brothers band. I've written two albums for them. One whole album and half of another album is all my work. And I would follow these guys around. One of my best friends is the guitar player, Henning Remme. It's him and his brother Øystein. Who lead that band. And I would follow them around when they would have these little gigs and, larger and smaller gigs. And I got so much inspiration because I don't drink. So I would be at these pubs and clubs and concert halls and whatnot. And I'd just be, off to the side and just watching the crowd.
Yeah, which is
there's a story. There's a story being told there.
Yeah.
So I'd say I've gotten material for, just off the top of my head, at least 7 or 8 songs that I have written that are a direct response to that inspiration I got just from observing.
Yeah.
At these gigs.
Yeah,
So I guess I'm saying I have different sources for my lyrical output and my songwriting output. Sometimes it's just that crazy divine thing with the chills and all that stuff, but sometimes it's a conscious exercise in observation to get inspiration from observing, and sometimes it's digging back into my past and then writing about that. So it's a position of luxury, I think, that I'm able to tap into different sources to get my inspiration.
Yeah, but you've trained to do that, you know?
Yes.
Because if you're just someone, you've never done anything like that, you sit down and you're like, what am I going to write about? You know?
Yeah, exactly.
And so you're thinking, what's a good story, you know? And you realize all the best stories, the great writers and creative people, they saw something or, had some background, they've had some life experience that
and like I told you, I wrote a country album for my friend Eystein, and I am not a country musician. I don't particularly like country music. But when he came up with this desire to have a country album and he asked me to write for him, boy, did I love that challenge, because it was a challenge, because now I have to think, everybody knows country music is a different style of lyricism. So I had to put my thought process into it. It's almost like if someone asked you to paint in a totally foreign style of painting, a totally foreign genre of art.
It's you have to learn almost like another language in a way.
Exactly.
Syntax and grammar, in a way. Yeah.
But see, that's the kind of artistic stuff I like. I like to stretch out and stick my foot in the door, in a new door, and see what's on the other side. Yeah. And that keeps it exciting. That keeps it. That keeps it into this never-ending learning process.
Yeah. Yeah. I just, just it's funny when you're having this conversation and the thing comes to mind is you remember Yogi Berra?
Yes. Yeah.
Remember his saying, you can observe a lot by just looking. Isn't that what it is? Just had to bring. He always has a great Yogi Berra.
Yeah, legend. Legend.
Yeah.
So what's coming up for you now? What do you have as far as, I don't know, any exhibitions or any goals you'd like to?
Exhibitions, everything got canceled. All these group exhibitions, but then they're going to do a sort of condensed one now. They're going to call it a Christmas one. It's actually the local. It's a football team, the organization that's doing, but it's also, like I said, it's money towards some charity. I've been with them for quite a few years. That's the only one that's they're sort of reviving some remnant of that the big fall exhibition that didn't happen because of the COVID stuff.
Right.
So, but at the moment I don't have any separate exhibitions planned. I just
how about an online seminar? You did that a while back too, didn't you?
Yeah, well, that was the sort of that COVID thing when people, the troubadours are playing stuff, and I thought, well, people asking me, and I'd see what it.
The troubadours, what's You mean musicians doing that?
Musician friends that lost all their troubadour work, and they were playing, and I felt like, okay. And they're kind of like they're asking for money to watch me play, and I'm thinking, well, I just I set up a sort of a free donation thing, but I figured, well, this is a good advertising.
Did you get a good response?
Well, I did, yeah. A lot of people watched because I had to cancel any classes that I was going to have. So this is sort of an introductory sort of thing. So I think when I do start having my classes again, that people are going to it's a sort of a lowering the threshold. Like they're saying, oh, this is kind of, it's less intimidating. They sort of get to know me and stuff. Because it might be scary, if I advertise I'm having a class, and people, I don't know if I dare do that. I don't paint, that well. And, so, so a lot of people did watch, and you know, there wasn't a lot of money in, but that wasn't, you know, I did all right with the pandemic, actually. I you know.
That's good. That's good to hear.
Yeah. I didn't have, I think I actually got more work than I usually did, because it was the, you know, people that were at home, and a lot of people were fixing their houses. And I think I got a lot of holiday money that people, they you know, they had their trips canceled.
Of course. So they have money sitting around. Yeah.
Right, or they were getting these chunks of money get back in their account because their trip got canceled.
Exactly,
you know? And
exactly.
then they're like, well, what are we going to do? So they start fixing up the house, and then they start buying artwork. So I did a number of pretty big commissions.
Man, that's
so I was
fantastic.
really, you know, yeah, I was fortunate. I was not I wasn't, you know, adversely affected financially by this. It was tough in other ways, but
I thought it was pretty cool to see you when you were doing the video class, and I actually had sat myself down. I was gonna watch, and I was holding my cell phone watching it, and you know what? I'm sorry, I fell asleep. I think I actually I wrote a couple of comments. Even I think you responded on a couple, and then I ended up falling asleep. Not because it was boring. I was just tired. It was that Bob Ross effect. I can never make it through a Bob Ross effect.
Yeah, I saw the documentary about Bob Ross, because you know, I was an art student, and he was kind of in his heyday. He'd been on for a few years, you know, and we would just be fascinated watching him, because it's nothing like you were doing as art students. It's just this sort of like, you know, this way to sort of make something that looks like a painting, you know. Yeah. And it's great, because a lot of people really just, but then I saw this thing, like they reckon that like less than 5% of his viewers actually set up an easel and painted along, you know.
Exactly. Most people just watched to relax.
Yeah. And we're all like, you know, in art school, it's an intense time, and you're just sort of like, you know, you're really getting all this input, and you're really, you know, living out your passion and just soaking in all this input. And then we're just like, man, I love watching Bob Ross. I just, you know, we all just. I
tell you, that was such a big part of my childhood. That was, man, and I still watch it to this day. You know, if I want to make sure I fall asleep and get a good night's rest, I'll have Bob Ross on.
He's original. I don't know what those things are called. There's those videos, you know, the YouTube things of people folding laundry or doing, you know. Oh, there's a woman. She's like got millions of followers, and I think she just plays with slime or something.
Yeah, what is that called? It's called what is it? Is it AMSR or ASMR or whatever? Yeah.
I was going to say something like BDSM or
something. hey, man, you know,
watch and then fall asleep.
Hey man, maybe the terms are not that different actually. No, it's
HTML or something.
But yeah, no, these people are getting tens of millions of followers, and they're making some pretty good bank on YouTube.
And that's what
with
I think
stuff.
What Bob Ross did, you know. And as a painter, as a painting student, I was watching this out of this morbid fascination in a way.
They do that.
And there was others,
They do this thing where I was watching this one woman where the camera is like it's close up on her, just her mouth, and she's wearing like bright red lipstick, and there's something sensual / sexual in that, you know, a close up of this woman's mouth with this red lipstick, but she doesn't say anything sexual. She's just she's talking real soft. Hi, how are you today? I'm doing fine. And just like mundane phraseology, mundane conversation.
Well, the other thing, the one right in the mic, and you can hear all the popping sounds. And I was talking to my friend, because you know, he's actually this is another my left-handed guitarist friend. He's a real musician. He's an Australian friend, but he's got this great voice, and people have hired him to do meditation stuff, because he's got this, you know, because he's a singer, he's got this really deep voice, and so and they had been suggesting, oh, you should do that, you know, and he said, I went in and watched those videos, and I was getting stressed. And I did the same thing. I checked it out too, and I'm like, yeah, it is. It's just, But
I think it's, I guess I can see the appeal in it, but I don't get stressed, but it's almost embarrassing when I watch those videos because it's so, it's a little weird. But having said that, Tiffany told me on an episode with her, but she's also talked about this off the air. She really thinks she digs my voice. So thank you for that, Miss Tiffany.
You got a great voice.
Thanks. It's not deep. It's not this big booming baritone, but I guess I have a soft voice. And Tiffany thinks that would be good for those kind of videos. Maybe if I did some kind of, just recite some sort of mantra, some sort of meditation type of thing, and start pumping out videos that are like 15 minutes each with me just talking people through a relaxation process. And I tell you, it's tempting, but it's weird. The idea of doing something like that is just, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I can't tell anybody that that's me doing it because they're going to make fun of me. They're going to think I'm some kind of weirdo. But I can see it's very popular. There's a demand for that kind of stuff. I look at these YouTube channels and they've got tens of millions of followers.
It's weird. It's funny. There must be personality types, and I think it's similar to. I remember, it was particularly talking about. This is way before I had kids, but I remember hearing about this Barney character, this the dinosaur, this dinosaur. I'd see it popping up, and all the people, a little older than me that had kids, they're going, "Oh God, Barney, I'm so tired. Oh God, I love you."
Oh gosh.
This stuff. And I think I saw a child psychologist or some expert talking about it. He says, yeah, of course, children's television drives adults crazy, but the very same reasons that kids love it is the same reasons that drive adults crazy.
Yes, yeah.
Which is a weird thing. And that might be personality types, with something that causes great relaxation in other people just drives other people.
Yeah. When you listen to those videos and the microphone, they're practically swallowing it, and you hear all the popping and the saliva and all that stuff. Yeah. But some people think that's obviously they think that's relaxing. Yeah, obviously. But I think it's just. I think it doesn't particularly bother me to hear that, but when I listen to it, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm a weirdo. Why am I listening to this? It's unnatural to me to want to sit and listen to that.
Right. Whereas for someone else, obviously, their natural was like, oh, this is nice. This makes me relax.
Well, I tell you, all of a sudden, there's going to pop up a new YouTube channel. This guy with this soft voice doing meditation.
That's right. I know that guy.
I'll never admit it. I will never admit it.
It depends on how weird it is.
The picture, the avatar picture will be of Denzel Washington or somebody like that. Yes. I will not admit that it's me.
Well, that's good.
Hey man, did you see the debate the other day?
Oh, I can't do it. In my mental state, I can't. That's almost like the same thing. I can commend some of these political broadcast radio programs that I'm listening to or I'm watching on social media, and these guys have to sit and listen to all these pundits and on the other side and to follow all of the press conferences and his speeches.
What gets me, what makes me wonder how they can do it is the people on the let's take the people on the right first of all. I don't care whether someone supports Trump or not. However, I don't think if you support Trump, I don't think you're being genuine if you cannot admit that the guy is a nut job. He says some of the most crazy inflammatory stuff, and you can't, that's undeniable. So my question would be, if you're on the right, how can you sit in that conflict? Because, Hillary called them a bunch of deplorables, and I believe some of them are obviously turned on by his nods to racist organizations and things like that. But I don't think a majority of them are like that. I think a majority of them are good people like you and I. So then my question would be, how can they sit there and see this display of ignorance, this disdain for facts and science and things like that. And then I see the people on the left, and I think, okay, most of them are also good people. Of course, you also have your crazies, but then I wonder how. And I'll say this: I think Joe Biden is a good man. I think Joe Biden is going to win, and I hope he wins.
I hope,
But if you're on the left, how can you sit comfortably knowing that the person who is the best candidate is not the candidate? Like I said, I think Joe Biden's a good man. I think his experience as vice president is valuable, but I don't think he's the best candidate. So I see both sides sitting in a very uncomfortable situation. And to see that makes me uncomfortable. It's like, ugh,
Yeah, he's said some things that like were unfortunate slips of the tongue or whatever. But that's nothing. I mean, it's like I'm trying to think who we have that is so embarrassing.
Yeah.
So like wow, that we have to hold our nose and like behind this guy. It's like I don't. Unless we're just so blind to it, I'm thinking, who is like that? He's just sort of.
I think it's a sad situation. It's very sad to see.
Right.
And do you feel I feel a certain anxiety being over here in Norway and seeing what's going on back home. I have this crazy feeling that I should be doing something to get more involved and to do something to help.
Yeah,
that's weird.
We talked about, I have my family, my nuclear family, as I said, my two brothers and my mom, they're kids and grandkids and nieces and nephews, they're all, down in southwestern Ohio, which is red as red can be.
Yes.
I went to the same high school as John Boehner.
Oh, did you really?
At the same time, yeah, but yeah. So
you poor thing. Well, it wasn't at the same time, so okay.
Yeah. So, so I'm like, I know they're all, they're all Republican all the way, and they're still not put off by this guy, and it's like.
Yeah, because I don't think there's anything wrong with being a Republican, but I do think there's something wrong and very questionable about being Republican and supporting this man. It's mind-boggling to me.
And they're trying to show us. It's like, well, we have to do that with Biden. I'm like, no,
it's not comparable. It is not comparable. Biden
has so many good qualities.
Biden is not the best candidate, but he is a good man, and he will do a good job as president.
Yeah.
So,
and I know they brought up stuff. I mean, maybe he was on the, you see some things about him on the wrong vote of some, sort of racial.
Well, yeah. But the thing is at the debate last night, and actually for a few days before the debate, he admitted that was a mistake. He said it's straightforward that was a mistake, and he should not have voted the way he did for the crime bill. Don't tiptoe, Snoop. Just come on in.
Yeah.
Come on, girl.
Hello. Yeah.
Say hi.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hello. Hello from the West Coast. Nice to meet you.
He said hello from the. She's not earphoned up, so she didn't hear. He said hello from the West Coast. Nice to meet you.
Oh, well, nice to you too.
Yeah.
The West Coast sounds nice.
Yeah.
Haugesund.
Oh,
Yeah. That's the infamous Snoopy. Can you please tell people that she exists? I know there are people, seriously, because I tease and I write so much crazy stuff about her. Some people have actually hinted to me that they don't believe. They think I'm just making up things.
Well, I know it's, it's not, I think a lot of I don't put on pictures of family and, just
no, I don't either.
the ones around because it's a privacy thing,
Sure. And that's something we've always been careful about with our kids. If we put anything, we don't show their faces. It's like from the back. And then Snoopy's avatar on social media is a literal avatar. It's a cartoon. Cartoon drawing of her. So she's extremely private about those things. I'm actually surprised that she lets me bring her on. I think I've done like 5 or 6 episodes with her on the podcast. I'm really surprised she lets me do that because she's extremely private and careful with social media.
Yeah, yeah. And probably smarter than us.
She's much smarter than us.
Yeah.
She is much smarter than us.
Yeah.
But I'm a better cook. She tries to do some of the strangest things in the kitchen. I'm telling you. I did not marry her because she can cook. That is not why I married her.
Yeah. Obviously, you've talked about this. She knows you have these conversations.
Oh, you've heard.
Yeah. So I assume everything that you say that's maybe at her cost is probably discussed. Yeah.
But you know what? When I tease her about these things, there's an element of truth. Snoop, admit it. Who is a better cook, you or me? Well, she says depends on what we're making. That's true.
Oh,
because I don't boil sheep's heads. Okay, for example.
Yeah. Well,
for example,
that only makes sense. Yeah. But I admit in my current relationship, as it is, that she's a better driver than me.
Oh, really? Are you a bad driver?
Yeah, I've been driving a long time.
Yeah,
longer than her. But I just have a lot of bad habits. Boston and New York, and I'm a sort of a city driver, and I always forget these things. What do they call them? The blinkers.
Yes, those things.
Yeah, I know they're on there, and there's some sort of handle that. But
I'm a pretty good driver. I keep it safe. I saw too many ugly car accidents as a cop.
Yeah,
and that stuff is very clearly stuck in my brain. You're never going to see me exceeding the speed limit. I always use my turn signals.
I'm not a fast driver. I mean, and it's a lot of local driving here, because we live close to the town center. Yeah. So I'm not a madman on the highway and stuff. Okay. But I've got myself in in the roundabouts, a little too close to.
Oh, are you one of the guys that I would be yelling at in the roundabouts?
Yeah, and I'm yelling at you.
Oh, man.
I'm like, I don't like, get your nose out there. They're not going to hit it. They got room. Just know that, and this is, and I didn't realize this. It's like, we use the horn. That's just part of like the steering wheel. It's you.
That's New York City and Boston driving. Yeah.
Yeah, and the other thing we do. I don't do it here, but if you park in a big city, parallel parking. Yeah. You know how when you're the best indicator that you're getting close to the car behind you?
What's that?
Is when you can see it move slightly.
That'll work.
Yeah.
Oh.
I had a visitor from Cincinnati when we were in Boston, and we're driving through the congested part of town, and we're driving down the street, and she goes, "Oh my God, the car is parked. It just hit that car." I'm like, "Yeah, that's how he knows."
That's how he knows. There you go.
That's how we park.
But I think Norwegian drivers are very aggressive. I think they are.
Oh, they can be, yeah. But you know who aren't is the taxi drivers. It's the opposite.
They're pretty chill, actually, when you say that. Yeah, they are.
Yeah, and they're like, Jesus, get out there, and they're waiting for the next car, and like, in the exact opposite of New York and probably Chicago, and it's taxi drivers. It's the antithesis here. It's a strange thing.
You've been here a long time, almost 30 years.
Yeah.
You ever want to go back?
Yeah. No. I think we were talking about that the other day. It's all about where my kids are now. Yeah. Now I have a grandchild, and
congratulations.
And thank you. It's 2 months next week.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. But just and both my kids seem to be settling down. My son's studying in Ås, on the near Drøbak, but I think he wants to. He's thinking, at least at this point.
Isn't that the agricultural? Isn't that the agricultural school?
Yeah. It started out. I think it was like what we call an Aggie, agricultural school. But they've sort of branched out because he's studying landscape engineering.
Ah, okay.
Which is, I guess, sort of advanced. Like just it's similar to civil engineering, and they have landscape architects, but they're doing more the engineering. It's
I see.
Interesting thing, yeah. So.
That's a 4-year bachelor, is it not?
I believe so. Yeah. He's just in his first year now. But my point is, my daughter, when she studied in Bø in Telemark, studied IT. her and her boyfriend, and they're both from here. They moved back, and they want to settle down. So maybe if they had moved away, I might feel different. But yeah, it's. I know it's talking to you that you like living here, but you're homesick.
I like living here, but I'm incredibly homesick at the same time. As crazy as things are back home, I don't want to move back. I wouldn't want to. No, I guess forget about Corona and forget about the ugly social and political situation back home. I think just that whole thing about going back and then starting over, what would I do for an income? The whole house buying procedure.
And
it would be too, because moving here almost broke me. It went very smooth. I got a job right away, and we lived with our in-laws and everything. But just that change, that whole thing of dropping my career back in the States and then coming here, it almost broke me. And I guess, I don't know if it's trauma or a form of PTSD or what it is, but I fear doing that again. With moving back home.
I already moved. And after 30 years, America, it's like, I don't know. Like I said, I was a young single student, didn't own anything, no responsibilities. And I came here, and all that changed in a short period of time. And then I became a middle-aged guy with grown children, and now a grandkid and stuff. So I would be just as, the culture shock moving back there.
And it's a lot to handle. But having said that, Snoopy and I, we do have a plan that eventually we are going to buy a home back there, so that when we retire, we can split our time between our place up in Finnmark here in Norway and a place back home in Ohio. That we will do that, but then that'll be a different situation because, we're retired, our economy is set, we don't have to worry about finding work. It'll be a different situation then. But now, with two kids who are barely, our daughter's barely a teenager, our son is only 12. So it's too much of a shaky situation to move with them at this point.
That's a traumatic. Those are both ages are traumatic for them to move to another. Even though it's your culture, it's still, it's a different. And unless you needed to for work or some drastic situation, So,
although I did tell Snoop that if I were to get a radio job with NPR radio, and they wanted me to move to New York, and they're going to pay me, I don't know, $100,000. No, that's not much. No, $100,000 not enough in New York City. What would they have to pay me to move to New York? You know what? Pay me $225,000 a year, and I'll move my family. I'll move to New York City.
$250. So I guess we're both in the right ballpark.
I'd go to Boston for $100,000 though.
Okay.
I'd go back home to Ohio for $75,000.
Okay. You could afford it there.
Then I could afford it there.
Oh.
Small town Ohio.
Yeah. No, but it was a good place here to raise kids.
It is a good place to raise kids.
I talk in the past tense, because now I've got two adults.
But looking at the life that our two kids have, I don't know that they would thrive in the States because it's more of a jungle there. It's a little rougher. There's less protections. It's a little more wild. I think even if we were to go to my rural hometown in Ohio, which was quite rural and still is, I don't know that they would adjust. But maybe that's me just being the protective father. I don't know.
Yeah. It's just hard to say. They would if it was a necessity situation, you'd be worried about it, But that's a hypothetical.
I don't know. It's not totally hypothetical because they do have that chump gene that they got from Snoop. So I don't know. They might.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
There's my dig. Every podcast has to have a dig on Snoop. So.
Yeah. Okay. Careful.
I'm terrible. I'm awful.
You got it all. It's all being recorded.
It's all I can't back out now. It's all recorded. No editing. No editing on this podcast.
No. So.
But hey, listen, man. We should wrap this up.
Yeah,
Soup is getting ready to leave. I want to give her a hug before she walks out, and
give her a hug from me.
I'll do that. Yeah,
we're huggers, you know.
And remember, you've seen her now, so you tell people now.
That's right.
When you see them doubting whether she exists, now
That's
you've seen
right.
her. She is real.
I imagine Tiffany's met her as well. So
yes, her and Tiffany get along really well. They're a good mix.
Yeah.
One of these days, I'm going to do an episode with both of them on because they play really well off of each other. Yeah.
Well, be careful the women in your life.
Oh gosh. Maybe I should keep them. Okay, there's no room on this. I only have 2 mics. There you go. I only have 2 microphones. So
yeah. As long as they go one each, you don't need anything. You won't have a voice. So,
oh man. Yeah. Well, listen, Brian. When I post this episode, I'm going to put all of your contact information on social media so people can see what you're doing. I want people to be able to enjoy the beautiful artwork that you're doing.
Thank you very much.
Really, I have really been impressed with your social media presence ever since the first time I saw you on social media. So keep up the good work. Keep painting. It makes me feel good to see that a fellow artist is actually able to live off their work and enjoying it, man. And you deserve all the best.
Well, thank you very much. So but we'll do this another time. You've got. I don't have a day like I don't have the alliteration that Tiffany does. I need something.
Nobody does. My friend, nobody does.
Big days at Brian. Big. I don't know. Something.
As you noticed, we had to skip over Tiffy Tuesday this week because she's very active in the Halloween project for her for her town. So she's an integral part of there. They have like one of the best haunted houses in the country.
Yeah, I saw the poster. Yeah,
and she's
proud of it.
Yeah, she's very active on that. So that's why there was no Tiffy Tuesday, but she'll be back.
I'll take it.
Yeah. All right, man. Well,
hey, man.
Brian, thanks again for doing this. You have an open space on this podcast. Anytime you want to come on, you're welcome.
Yeah, we've got plenty to talk about.
Thanks a lot, my friend.
All right, man. Okay, bye.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you and goodbye.